Hey, Bob.
Hey
All
guys,
right,
how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Bob. Bob, this is great. Great to have you back. It's been a while. We've had you on before, only on phone call, so it's cool to be able to see you here, man. How's everything been going, brother?
Things are good, and you?
Hey, we're doing okay, man. I tell you, this has a feeling of a really important early season matchup coming up here at Arrowhead as we welcome you guys to Arrowhead Stadium on Sunday, man. What's the early returns here on Cam Newton? Over 700 yards passing, but just the two touchdowns and a couple picks. But man, the Patriots are really running the ball really well right now, aren't they?
Yeah, the first game in particular against the Dolphins, there was great anticipation, and really, I think a lot of people, if not everyone, who follows the Patriots closely, whether fans or the media, had no idea what to expect because Cam Newton didn't join the team until very late in the summer. He was signed after all of the virtual spring OTAs mini camp. So he didn't have a chance to really immerse himself in the playbook. Then when he did arrive shortly before training camp began, it was stated that it would be an open competition for the quarterback spot with second-year QB Jarrett Stidham and veteran Brian Hoyer, who was back for his third stint. And, Cam eventually won that with relative ease. It was pretty apparent by the second week of camp that he was going to be the quarterback. But, based on what we saw publicly, we didn't really get a good look at what they were going to become on opening day against the Dolphins, which was a team really well skilled in the option game, and Newton ran it exceptionally well. And he had the first of his two touchdown games on the ground for the Patriots, followed up in Seattle. But the next week, it was almost an about-face offensively because they went from running it predominantly against the Dolphins to throwing it for the most part against the Seahawks and throwing it deep in particular. Julian Edelman had a career high well over 100 yards, receiving far and away his best per-catch average. Newton and the Patriots were within a yard of winning that game in Seattle. It came down to a first and goal to go that the Seahawks stopped on the final play of the game. And then a week later against Las Vegas, they didn't throw it well at all. And they had to resort to a different kind of running game. It was less Cam Newton, who had accounted for 95% of the offense running and passing against Seattle. And it was more Rex Burkhead and Sony Michel, 100 yards. Of course, two guys familiar to Chiefs fans from the last couple of seasons. And the Patriots had to win it a different way. The defense forced some turnovers. They got a defensive score late, and they pulled away. But the final against the Raiders was a bit misleading, that's for sure. That game did not feel like it was a 36 to 21 route in favor of the Patriots. It was a bit of a struggle for a long time.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you a little bit about that defense because we saw the Chargers have success against the Chiefs, rushing with just their front four, but they have a great defensive line, those two ends. Then Wink Martindale and the Ravens, they went to exotic blitz packages that the Chiefs just ate up. We saw this past week, Belichick told the Raiders, you can't have Darren Waller today, and they didn't have another option. If you do that to the Chiefs, they've got a plethora of other options that they can go to. So my question for you is, what special wrinkle do you think Bill Belichick will implement against this Chiefs team?
Well, it's funny because the Patriots had a lot of success in man coverage the last several years. And I thought they really defended the Chiefs very well in the last three games with Patrick at quarterback. And yet you look at the scoreboard and you go from 3 field goals in the first half in October of 2018 to a shootout in the second half of the Chiefs scoring just about every possession. Then the next game, it's the AFC Championship, and it's 14-0 at halftime. And the next thing you know, the Patriots have to rally because the Chiefs have scored 24 points in the blink of an eye in the fourth quarter. And then last year, of course, it was the 23-16 game, but the Chiefs had a lot of explosive plays in that one, and they did it with different people involved. And I think this offense has become so much more difficult to defend because of the number of weapons that are all, I don't want to say they're equally lethal because Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce are elite players at their position. But McCole Hardman, last year, what was it, second down and 25, and it's a 48-yard touchdown pass. Then Sammy Watkins, who I think one of the guys on the broadcast the other night on ESPN said he's the slow one, and he caught a 23-yard pass in that game last year. So there are so many weapons. The rookie in the backfield is terrific. We saw what Damian Williams did against the Patriots the last couple of years in the past two meetings of the teams, including that AFC Championship game. And then last year, of course, what a postseason he had, and he's no longer there. But I think that backfield is just as dangerous, and Andy's so good at drawing up plays. And Sherman and Fisher scored touchdowns in the game against Baltimore. So you're right. hard to take away one option. I think the big thing to me when I watch what the Patriots have done, for the most part, they have tried to keep Patrick in the pocket. And he could beat you backpedaling 10 yards from one hash mark to the other on 3rd and long and throwing it 50 yards downfield. He could beat you standing in the pocket, pick apart his own defense all day. Kelsey in particular against zones is especially dangerous. They could beat you with man coverage. And he gets out of the pocket. He makes plays with his legs. He extends. He's able to throw across his body and deliver a laser deep downfield to the other side of the field. So, it's a matter of picking your poise. And I just thought as that game went along, I thought the Ravens, it was almost a reckless approach defensively. I thought they kind of panicked on both sides of the ball. I thought Martindale just came after them. And there were a couple plays where Mahomes easily escaped, and there's nobody in containment. Nobody set the edge, and he's got 20 yards of open field. So I think the Patriots have to try to slow this game down in a lot of respects. And that means to do their best to prevent the big plays. And they've had trouble this year doing that, frankly. As evidenced by the Seattle game. They gave up 5 touchdown passes and 3 long ones in that one.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit of a big picture question here, and that is kind of what's the perception of this Kansas City Chiefs franchise from media and from fans on the East Coast there? Because for years, Andy Reid has made the playoffs almost every year here, but it was always you couldn't catch the Patriots. We talked to you before the 16 playoff game. That's the only playoff game we had against the Patriots before Patrick Mahomes. And now the Chiefs, they get over that hump. They win the Super Bowl while the Patriots are kind of transitioning a bit. What is kind of the perception of the Chiefs right now? Is this just, hey, they got that Super Bowl, great? Or is it like, oh, man, this might be the next team that not that the Chiefs are going to win 6 Super Bowls over the next 15, but, man, what's kind of the perception out there of this Chiefs franchise?
Well, the Chiefs are the defending champions, and they're the favorite to repeat. For a lot of reasons. All the guys were back, and I think not only in offense, but I think defensively, particularly with the improvement they made last year with Frank Clark on the defensive line. Player Chris Jones has become the secondary. Now, they're banged up right now. Unfortunately, they're not going to be at full strength, it appears, for this game back there. But, with the Chiefs and Andy Reid, he's come into this league, or he came into the AFC from the NFC after so much success with the Eagles. And the job that he did in building the Chiefs into a perennial division champion and now a contender to win a Super Bowl year after year, it's phenomenal based on what he inherited and how far they've come. And Patrick Mahomes is a special player, and I don't know how to qualify his better quantify, what he brings on the field, because like I said, it's your third and forever, second and forever, and they're never out of it. They're never out of a game. 6 straight wins after trailing by double digits. I noted a couple of the Patriots' wins in 2018 when I looked at the Pats had dominated the game, and before they knew it, they're fighting to come back and win and outscore KC. So I think people look at this team with a lot of respect because of what the Chiefs have done over the course of, Andy's career as a head coach with Alex Smith and Patrick on the Chiefs routed the Patriots, we all know, in 2014 with Alex at quarterback. And Andy's such a great play caller. He's been able to go head-to-head with Bill Belichick and more than hold his own. You look at the offensive numbers, I think about 33 points per game against the Patriots defenses in their head-to-head meetings. Often I think the perception around here is that other teams are going to come in and eventually they're going to lose the games and the Patriots are going to capitalize. It's not as much the Patriots sometimes beating them, it's them beating themselves. And there's that Belichick Brady factor that existed here for so long. Well, that's never really been the case with Andy Reid's teams. I think Andy's been able to, diagram an offensive strategy that has perplexed the Patriots, or even when the Patriots have defended it well. And, again, it's forced them into, back and forth struggles the last couple of years to outscore KC. And you look at Mahomes, young quarterback locked up for a decade. If he stays healthy, he's only going to be better and better year after year. Kelsey locked up, Jones locked up. They've gone about building this team the right way, all that speed, so much to contend with. So there's a lot of respect for the Chiefs. I don't think, I'll be honest with you, in the media here, you got to separate it between those who cover the team on a regular basis and those in talk radio circles. And people in sports talk in Boston, there's a natural cynicism or negativity that exists. And so people are going to still point maybe in those circles to Andy's clock management or maybe some of the Chiefs' failures in the past. To me, those are all irrelevant They got over the hump a few years ago, winning at home in the postseason. And they've got to the AFC Championship the last 2 years. They won it all last year. They're well positioned to do it again this year.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the Patriots side of things, and how much do you think the high number of opt-outs that the Patriots have had, although Cam is playing well, also the lack of weapons in the pass game, will hold this team back from where they ultimately want to go?
Yeah, your question earlier, too, about the way the Patriots might try to defend the Chiefs, I think really goes back to the losses through free agency. Kyle Van Noy, Jamie Collins departing through free agency. Ron Harmon, a guy who played a lot of snaps, or Patrick Chung, who played a lot of snaps in that hybrid position, and in particular in Chiefs-Patriots games opposite Travis Kelce. Those guys were lost either to free agency, or in the case of Dante Hightower as well, and Patrick Chung, they were late opt-outs. The Patriots had a league-high 8 opt-outs, and so they were really hit hard defensively. And while the secondary is still considered, I think, one of the best in the league, and is the strength of this defense, they're very thin up front, and in particular in that second level. And you're going to see a lot of 6-7 defensive back packages out there for the Patriots, some big nickel, big dime with multiple safeties, 3, maybe even 4 safeties out on the field. That's the way they've had to play, because they really only have right now one true off-the-ball linebacker, and that's Juwan Bentley. And frankly, they've got to be careful not to see him isolated in coverage. And I think that's the thing about the Chiefs in a game like this, because Andy's going to, as soon as Mahomes sees the matchup, he's got Juwan Bentley out on a running back. Or even if they can isolate a Sherman or that second tight end, they're going to go after him. And he's not afraid to use everybody. It amazes me. All these coaches have these giant play sheets, and maybe they can use a third of the plays. Andy Reid can pick from any one of them, and Mahomes can pick out any player on any one of them, and they can find a way to score. So the opt-outs are a big factor. The losses through free agency. The Patriots were looking toward and not a rebuild, but a retooling in a lot of ways, defensively especially. They needed to get younger. They went the defensive route early in the draft. Their top 3 picks were defenders. But unfortunately for them, only one has really been on the field, and that's the safety Kyle Duggar, because linebacker Anthony Jennings, very limited in game 1, wasn't out to the last couple, and Josh Uche, who I think was the player really who had the most promise of impacting the defense right away out of Michigan. He's been inactive for all 3 because of an ankle/foot injury. So they're definitely hampered defensively. And the defensive line, honestly, again, because of losses through free agency and the opt-outs, not having the run support from a guy like Hightower, they're good with Lawrence Guy and Adam Butler, and Dietrich Wise has had a good start to this year, but they're thin. And Chase Winovich has really come on. I have to recognize him too. He's playing really well. But I'm really skeptical about the Patriots' ability to stand up against good running teams who commit to the run and stay committed to it. I thought the Raiders got away from it too early on Sunday. They were running it effectively, and I thought they got away from it too early in that second half, and ultimately it helped to spell their demise. Again, the Chiefs can beat you in so many ways, and I wouldn't be surprised if Andy says, you know what, let's run it on this team as well.
Before we let you go here, Bob, you've been so gracious with your time. I know you got to run. But the Patriots are getting 7 points here. I don't know if it's smart business in Vegas to give Bill Belichick 7, man. How do you see this playing out? Do you see that as any kind of a sign of disrespect? I mean, the Patriots have played great. Pro Football Talk has them rated the 3rd best team in the NFL, from the analytics through 3 games. So how do you see it playing out on Sunday?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real competitive game. And, relating it to the last question, too, I think that one of the reasons why the Patriots go in as a touchdown underdog in this game, just as they were in Seattle. It's really remarkable. 2 of the last 3 games, the Patriots have been touchdown underdogs, according to the odds makers, and that's never really happened in the Belichick era, at least since 2002. It's not only the defense, but it's the offense and the limitations offensively. I would have to think that, though, the Chiefs struggle to stop the run overall. You look at the numbers against the Ravens, really outside of 2 runs, they did a pretty good job against Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And Brendan Daly will have that defensive line and that run defense, and Steve Spagnuolo will have their defense well prepared for this game. So I think the Patriots are going to have to be able to throw it effectively. And the question is, can they do it enough? Can they mix it enough and control the ball enough, but score points and finish drives in the red zone, which they didn't do last year. And really, they've been inconsistent thus far this year to keep themselves in the game if they get the kind of defensive effort that they're hoping for. And I think Belichick will come up with a great game plan. He always does. The Patriots have been really disciplined. I think they're going in at a good time, frankly, just as they did with Seattle. In Seattle, there were no fans, so they didn't have to deal with the crowd noise and the 12s. Going into Arrowhead, considering the circumstances, a lot different, rather than if they're playing there, as we found out in 2014, or even in that AFC Championship, with a full house that's setting, a Guinness Book of World Records new standard for decibels in a sports stadium. But I do think it'll be competitive. I think the Patriots have their work cut out for them. I think a lot of people around here, frankly, look at this game as kind of a measuring stick, and hopefully for the Patriots, if they come out of it healthy, a launching point. I'm not going to disrespect the Patriots, especially as the broadcaster, and say they don't have a chance to win. I think they do. They do, but they're going to have to play exceptionally well for 60 minutes, and they're going to need to play exceptionally well in every phase of the game.
Well, can't wait for it, Bob. Honest to goodness, you're my favorite play-by-play voice in the National Football League. You do a great job. Can't wait to listen to the broadcast coming up here. You do great work, and I hope we can do it again here this January, because that just feels right, man.
Yeah, I have a question for you.
Sure.
How did you get a hold of that Lombardi trophy?
This is a replica. There's a website out there called copytrophy.com. They're about $450, and
they're not a sponsor, but I guess we'll just plug them here.
Sponsor them anyway. It's a great trophy. They do a great job. So yeah, we got a ring too. So we just need 5 more to catch you guys.
Yeah, you have one for the extra hand, Bob. So you're doing pretty good over there, man.
Well, for the first 3, but I'm certainly glad that I was for the last one. And I hope that there's another one in the Patriots' future. I think the Chiefs are going to be contending for a few more as well. So guys, I hope we do get a chance to talk again in January.
Let's do it. Thank you so much, Bob.
It was an honor. Take care.